Hello, everyone, and welcome to our debt-free goal setting for 2022. And the reason why I wanted to do this training was because we can afford anything, we just can't afford everything. And so I know a lot of you, as we're working on our money goals and figuring out the priorities and the things that make us happiest in life, we want to make sure that we're doing more of those things, as many of them as possible, but without going further into debt. A lot of us already have debt, whether it's student loans, credit card debt, personal loans, of course, the mortgage, car loans. And while we are working our goals to actually pay off those items, we want to make sure that we're also implementing things in our life like vacations or pursuing additional hobbies, all those kind of things without taking on more debt. And of course, paying off your debt might be your main goals for this year, but I want to allow room for other areas as well. And we'll go into the different types of goals in this training. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so let's take a moment to reflect on last year. And this, I think, this picture here does a really good job of kind of walking us through the steps of reflection and digging a little bit deeper into just surface area reflections. I gave credit to the source below, teachwriting.org, but so if you are watching the recording, go ahead and hit pause at any time that you are ready to kind of dig into this work and follow the steps as I kind of I facilitate your thinking on how 2021 went for you. And so first we want to think about, what did I accomplish? And before we get into this, I guess, make sure that you're in a comfortable space, make sure that you are nice and cozy, that you maybe have a beverage of your choice near you, that you maybe dim the lights and close your eyes, and definitely give yourself time and space to do this work. So remembering, what did I accomplish last year? Giving yourself credit for all the things that you did well is going to be really important to making sure that you can continue some of those positive attributes and traits that you use to accomplish some of your goals. And understanding what is important about what you did. So why were those goals so important and impactful in your life? Why did they bring you joy? Maybe it was a really big milestone for you. Maybe you accomplished something that everyone said you couldn't, or you didn't think was possible for yourself. And as we go through these prompts, feel free to journal and write your answers down, reflect in your brain, whatever feels most comfortable to you. Next, we're going to apply this thinking and everything that we just reflected on. And where could I use this again? So how do we apply those same successful tactics, techniques, thought processes, planning, brainstorming? How do we apply those into what we can do next year? How do we keep doing more of what we're good at to help us reach our goals? And what would it look like this year with our goals? And of course, you don't have your goals yet right now for this year, but this is just reflecting on the years past and picking out what went well. And then we're going to analyze some of this work. And then what are some of the patterns, especially my behavior, that allowed me to accomplish these goals? Or maybe patterns that allowed me to not accomplish the goals. How well did I do? What could be done differently? So we're now evaluating the steps that we took to accomplish those goals, or the lack of steps. And we're just being really honest with ourselves. This isn't a moment to beat ourselves up for not doing enough, not being good enough. It's hard to change items that are in the past. And so forgiving ourselves for maybe not trying hard enough, or not outlining our goals and not going after what we really want in life, and forgiving ourselves and allowing for space to do that this year. And then how can I use this knowledge in future work? How can I use these lessons learned, whether I did really great and I want to keep doing those great things, or I missed a few of the steps along the way, and this is what I did that maybe I self-sabotaged. And so as we go through these levels of reflection, there are multiple others online. Feel free to do your own work and research in this and whatever feels best for you, but taking some time to truly honestly reflect on last year and what you can do better. And as we reflect on the past, we also want to use that information to ask ourselves, what do we want in the future? And how can we put into place tasks and actions to make that happen? And so these are our goals. What do we want in our life? Where do we see ourselves living? Where do we see ourselves? What hobbies are we taking on? What activities do we do on the weekends? What debts do we want to pay off, or what other financial goals do we have? And so we want to think about our goals in both short, medium, and long-term goals. The short-term goals I'd like to reference, it's usually a 3 to 6 month point that you would accomplish that goal. So a relatively short span. Medium, I would say, is something that you want to accomplish this year. And then our long-term goals are our 5-year goals. And this can be an exercise in and of itself where we think about, where do we want to be in 5 years? And what do I need to do to make those goals happen? If we want to buy a house, for example, within 5 years, we can break out each year for the next 5 years, what are my big milestones that I want to accomplish? And then one of those milestones, your first one potentially, that would be your medium-term goal for this year. Maybe it's you're starting to work on your credit. Maybe you're paying off some debt you have. Maybe you're going to increase your income so that you can start saving some money. But by breaking those long-term goals down into medium goals and milestones, we're able to track our pace on how well we're doing to accomplish that goal by the time frame that we had in mind. So be sure that you're including both personal, financial, and professional goals in here. We want to make sure that we have balance in our lives. And so we don't want them all to just be personal goals. By reaching a lot of personal goals, going after hobbies, running races, maybe going on family vacations, it can be easy how we can accrue more debt when we're just chasing after all those happy feeling types of things. But let's be sure to include some financial goals in there as well. So whether you're paying off debt, buying a car with cash, or saving enough for a family vacation, sticking to your budget. There's a lot of examples of different goals that you can have financially. And then professional goals. They don't always have to be for that next big raise or to have that promotion. They can also just be, maybe you want to increase your expertise in a certain area, or you want to have better, more effective conversations with your boss. You want to get along better with a coworker. Those are just some simple examples of some of the professional goals that you can have. And be sure to be specific so that you know when you have won. And there is nothing worse than having a goal. Let's take a financial one, for example, of having an emergency fund. And let's say we get to a point where we have $5,000 in our savings account. It could very easily be portrayed as we have an emergency fund, especially if we've never had that amount of money in our savings account at any given time. You could very easily be misled and say, I am doing great. Look at all this money that I have. Check box, goal accomplished. But let's put some parameters around all of our goals. So instead of just having an emergency fund, maybe we want to have $8,000, and maybe we want to have it by the end of the year. Or we have our side hustles going, and so maybe we want to have it by the beginning of summer. By allowing yourself to, by documenting the specifics around your goal, it'll not only be easier to accomplish because you'll be able to break it down into smaller goals, but you'll know when you actually won, and then you can actually celebrate, which is huge. So let's take a moment to envision what we want this year. Using all of those reminders first, short-term, medium, and long-term goals. What are some of the things that we want to accomplish personally, professionally, and financially? If you're watching the recording, definitely take a pause in this video right now and reflect for yourself. What are some of the things that I want to accomplish? Maybe you want to set up some time with your spouse if you're sharing money with somebody and you guys want to dream together. Maybe you want to start paying extra on your mortgage. Maybe you want to save for a home renovation. Maybe you want to pay off one of those sticky loans that you've been managing, and they're just kind of eating you alive and you want to get rid of them. Whatever you got to do, spend some time together, reflect, and then write out your goals. Okay, so how can I help myself win? These are where we get into all of the tactics on, okay, I know what my goals are. I have a really good idea. I've mapped them out. I've outlined them. I have them maybe posted on my fridge as a reminder. But what are some of the smaller things that I can do to make sure that I'm winning along the way? These are things that can make your life just that much easier because we want to work smarter, not harder after all. And we want to make sure that we're keeping up and staying on track. That way, if we had a goal to save $10,000 this year, we can kind of make the milestones along the way versus it's October and we're like, oh shoot, how do I save 10 grand this year, right? So what reminders will I set up to stay on track? And these are maybe as simple as phone reminders. Maybe you have a habit tracking app, um, whatever is more convenient for you and whatever makes sense for you. What tasks will I commit to changing or implementing to accomplish my goals? So this is breaking down your goals into smaller items again. When you are trying to run a marathon, for example, you have to commit to specific things to get to that marathon. You don't just show up to race day with your tennis shoes tied, you paid your race entry fee, and here you go, right? You maybe have to commit to waking up to your alarm in the morning so that you can go on your morning run. Maybe you have to commit to mapping out your training plan so that you can set reminders in your phone or in your calendar for how long you have to run on certain days. If you're wanting to read 4 books a year, maybe your tasks are reminders on your phone to read for 30 minutes a day. What can you do to break down your larger goals, even those short-term goals, into manageable, actionable items where you're just moving the needle 1% every single day, but it's making big progress long-term? And then it's always helpful to have an accountability buddy when you are making your goals, right? When we have somebody that is on our side, that is our cheerleader, whether it's a spouse, a good friend, a neighbor, somebody in your running group, another mom that you know from school, whatever it is, who will I share my goals with to celebrate and to help me focus? Who will ask me how I'm doing? Who will know when I'm supposed to accomplish these milestones and that can check in on me? Who can I celebrate with and go out to lunch with when I've reached some of my milestones? And then when will I check in on my progress? And so if we're using the marathon as an example, maybe every single Sunday you check in with yourself after your long run and you say, how are my shorter runs this week? How was my long run this week? What days that I didn't feel my best? Did I drink too much alcohol? Did I not eat very well? Maybe I'm signing up for some 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons along the way. How am I doing in those races? But what dates do you have that you want to check in on your goal to see how you're doing? If you're paying off your debt, maybe you check in once a month after you make your monthly debt payments and you say, how well did I do in making my standard debt payment? How well did I do in paying extra on that debt? And am I still on track to pay off that debt in time? I did that quite a bit when I was paying off my student loans. I was sure that every single month I wanted to pay an extra amount of money on my loan. I believe it was like $1,200 or something. It didn't start off that high. It started off like an extra $200 a month. And then I saw that that wasn't moving the needle. And so I sped it up and I wanted to pay like $1,200 a month. And I worked all the side hustles to make sure that I could do that. And so each month I would look at my loan, I would log in and I would say, did I make these payments? And then after I looked at how much my payments were, I would look at how much I owed still. And then I would go into my Excel spreadsheets and I would track, today on this date, I still owe this amount of money and I am or I am not on track to reach my goal. And sometimes we're not on track because we didn't make enough money at our side job or other expenses came up. And then you can just adjust along the way. It's not a big deal. But by checking in, you can more often than not be ahead of the game of when you're not on track versus if I were to just have checked in December at the end of the year to say, was I on track to reach my goal? It's probably too late by that point, right? And the biggest piece about this is, why are these goals important to me? Because it is really easy to just make a goal of, I want to pay off my debt. But when times get tough and you're waitressing on the weekends, you're saying no to vacations with friends, it's really easy to say, is this still important to me? And why do I even want to do this anymore? I quit, right? And so by understanding why these goals are important, what you will get out of them, how they will change your life, it'll keep you on track and it will keep you a little bit more positive during the hard times of sticking to something for long term. So whether you need to journal about it, whether you need to put it as your desktop background of why you're doing this every day, whether you have an alarm on your phone that just gives you a little bit of kudos every once in a while, make sure you remember why you're doing it. All right, and so the part of this that is really important is ensuring that we are staying debt-free during this process. This doesn't mean that you are actually debt-free. You probably have other debts, which is why you're here. But how can we do these extra things in life that are important to us without accruing extra debt? That's the really big piece in this. I want you all to still do the things that make you happy. I want you to do more of the things that bring you joy without going further into debt. So what you're going to do is you're going to create mini budgets and you're going to assign costs to each goal. And for example, if you want to buy this dream car in 4 years, the cost might just be the price of the car, or maybe an uptick in insurance if you have to pay extra in insurance. But sometimes our goals aren't that easy. Sometimes if we want to go on an annual vacation with our families, or if we want to go to grad school, sometimes there's a little bit more there's some fluctuation in how much it's going to cost us. So I always recommend mini budgets to people. There's definitely YouTube videos on my channel about how to create mini budgets, and then lessons, of course, on social media as well. So dig into those if you don't know what they are, but it's basically breaking down this large, big, scary expense into actionable, specific items that you're saving for, and then how much they add up to. So for example, if you wanted to pay for Christmas in cash every single year as your goal, you would actually create a mini budget on how much does Christmas cost me. You don't want to just assign a number where it'll cost me $1,000, right? Because that number could be too small and it could also be too big. And we don't want to be saving extra money in something that we don't have to, right? And so add up, how much do I spend on wrapping paper? How much do I spend on gifts for the kids and my spouse? Do I have to buy extra groceries? Do we buy more booze? Do we have presents for neighbors or family members? And add all that up, and then you'll see how much money you need to reach that goal. Next, you want to add that goal as a new category line item in your budget. And what I mean by this is in your budget, in your spending plan, there's now going to be this new category for paying for Christmas with cash, or buying this car in 4 years, or annual family vacation, right? And you want to make sure that these goals are in your budget. That way you are actually setting money aside each month to make them happen. Now you're going to want to make sure that you align your income with these new categories in your budget, because previous to these categories being in your budget, you maybe were zero-based, you were balanced, everything equaled your income and all your expenses, you were good to go. But now we're adding more items to that budget, right? So we need to adjust for this extra spending. Are you going to pick up a side hustle where you can have extra income? That's what I did. I waitressed all the time when I was paying off my student loans. Do you maybe just want to pull 10, 15, 20 bucks from a lot of different categories and just reduce your spending in a bunch of different areas to make one big impact? So maybe you're going to spend $20 less a month in restaurants, $10 less a month in clothing, $5 less a month on eating out. Whatever you want to do, you can just adjust and then make sure it's realigned. You can also just reduce your spending in general. So as you're adjusting, part 4 here, you can reduce your spending in the categories as we talked about. You can increase your income, getting that side hustle, or also you can extend the date of your goal. And so what that means is maybe instead of buying that car in 4 years, we're going to buy it in 5 years, because we need a little bit of extra time to make that goal happen. Maybe if you're being really ambitious with paying off your student loans and you say, I'm going to pay them off this year, then you do the math and you can't afford that monthly payment. So maybe you're going to pay it off next year, and that's okay. It's all about making a plan that you can stick to long term. Because if it's too restrictive, if it's too hard, you're not going to want to keep doing it. All right, so I have this free tool for you guys to wrap this up. And this is just something that I use to kind of get my ducks in a row. I want to, at the top there, start, stop, and continue. These are the tasks. These are the action items that you want to start doing, that you want to stop doing, or that you want to continue doing. Maybe you're doing okay in a lot of areas. Maybe if you're working on that marathon, you're going to stop snoozing your alarm. Maybe you're going to start eating better or going to bed earlier, right? Weekly reminders. Maybe on Sundays, you reassess how your week went. Maybe if it's paying off debt every week, you want to make sure that you pay small amounts of money towards your loan. Maybe if you want to go on that family vacation, weekly reminders are cutting out pictures in magazine articles of like your vacation spot and what you want to do and where you want to go. And then I also have a spot for your total debt here and then your top 3 goals. So this just kind of keeps everything in one place. And it's a good reminder for you to put on the fridge. If you want to print it out, you can also journal about this as well and write down all of these areas, but it gets you in line with your goals, how you're going to accomplish those goals, and then when you're going to accomplish them by. So this is how we can accomplish all of our goals, continuing being debt-free in these areas. It's just a little bit of planning. We have to ask ourselves what we want, our family, our spouses, what's important to us, what do we want to do this year, what makes us happy. We have to figure out how much it costs. And we have to include those into our budget. We have to make sure that we can afford it. And then we just have to remember our why. So that is how you are going to continue doing all your favorite things in 2022 without going further into debt. And I want you to make sure that you're reflecting and you're pausing in this video as you need a little bit more time to do the work. This isn't done overnight. I totally understand that. But we're already in January. And so get started. Let me know what your goals are. Comment on this link. And we're here to be your accountability buddy if you need somebody. And so just let us know. Otherwise, good luck, have fun, and the best of luck to you in accomplishing all of your goals this year, and a happy new year. Bye, everyone.